Hello, Generals. We are back with Ultimate General Civil War. This is Fiasco playing the Union Major General campaign, and we are prepared for the Battle of Gaines's Mill. Gaines Mill. I don't actually know whether it's Gaines's or Gaines, but Gaines Mill. Whatever. Um, Preparing for the battle, we have begun to slightly edge Union infantry above 1,000 men, that has been the standard fighting strength or fighting size of the infantry brigade up until now. Where available, I've been bumping them up to 1,100, and I started bumping them to 1050 instead of 11 when I realized I wasn't going to be able to get all of them. But I mean, this is a slow progression upward. Ironically, the on-paper strength of a Union infantry regiment was, I believe, 1,020 or 1,025 men. Presumably, it's 1,000 fighting men and then 25 various officers. But I actually don't know the exact breakdown of rank and personnel. Anywho, one of the achievements I'm pretty proud of with regard to the army going into Gaines Mill is we have 100% implementation of rifled weapons with regard to the infantry. We have 8 artillery units, 3 cavalry, 2 dedicated skirmishers, which are their first and third Lightfoot. I have a disbanded second. They got knocked down to 20 men, and it would just, I don't know, it wasn't going to be a thing. Bringing them back up. I'm pretty happy with first and third Lightfoot, however. Third Lightfoot being our Browning unit, and first Lightfoot being a General Sharps unit. Harper's Ferries, Springfield 55s, and a mix of Lorenzes in the rest of the army, with, I believe, one unit somewhere with Enfields. I forget who's got them. Yep, looks like 15th, which is why they've only got 900 men in the 15th Infantry Brigade. We're going to work on trying to get the army up to 1,200 or 1,300 men per infantry unit, moving into probably second Bull Run, the campaign leading up to that. I'm not going to have... I have low confidence we'll be able to do it between now and Malvern Hill. But yeah, nearly spent all the money bumping them up to the individual strengths. So I got the army to the point where everyone was 1,000 first, ready to go. And then still got 16,000 men. I haven't bought Sedgwick or Hooker or any of the other reputation rewards. And without further ado, let's jump into the battle as we go. So as a production note, I'm recording this as I'm doing this, obviously. And then when I jump into the play, I'm going to go ahead and deactivate the mic and just focus on playing the game. And I'll do a post-production dub. I'm noticing from my perspective that my commentary can be a bit split during play, and there's large windows where I'm not talking, and I think the quality of my play is also starting to drop as these battles get a little larger and the focus that is required to have a conversation starts to pull me further and further away from trying to play the game. So this is Fiasco signing off for right now, but as far as you're concerned, I'm going to come back in a couple of seconds once the battle starts with my post-recording dub. The actual battle itself will be played at 2 times speed. It's a long fight, and there's no sense in making you guys kind of sit through all that. As far as a general plan for the field, I mean, we'll see how much this ends up coming out. Numbers are a wee bit higher than 2 to 1. It looks like close to just shy of 22,000 versus just shy of 44,000. So a wee bit better than 2 to 1. However, we are edging the gun. Artillery differential is closer to, 1.5 to 1? It's not quite 2 to 1. It's damn near to it, actually. It's also a bit shy of that. I think 2 to 1 would be about 140 guns, so this is close. Similar number of divisions, which isn't terribly surprising. Similar number of brigades, which is indicative of the fact that I'm expecting Confederate brigades to be huge. If my guys are a little over 1,000 or around 1,000 is the average, I would expect their average is probably 18 to 2,000, somewhere in there. So a broad note about plan. 2 Corps is expected, in my mind, to occupy a position here-ish, sort of accepting the Confederate right punch, or I guess this would be their left. So their left hook, I'm expecting to accept it with 2 Corps, and then the majority of I Corps will be deployed at the apex of this hill here. And then some elements will be in this sort of defensive terrain here, and then bits will be kind of here. When elements of the Confederate left hooks show up, this element will collapse inward and kind of hinge around that farm that's around here, hinge here, and then these two forces will hopefully pull a successful rear guard while I deal with the enemy into my front. When I played this battle on Brigadier General, I got caught with my pants down that the Confederate left hook had showed up, and I just didn't see it. So I'm going to be making an effort to scout in this direction far earlier than I did in the BG playthrough, and hopefully I'll catch that push earlier, and so I'm not taking as heavy a losses. So like I said, this is Fiasco for now, signing off, but I'll be back in just a second. And we're back. This is obviously recorded in post. So yeah, the battle actually goes really well for most of it, and then kind of gets a little messy towards the end. So I guess I make mention when I'm talking about the battle plan, I make mention of my Brigadier General playthrough, and it occurred to me when I finished the battle that I didn't actually upload my Brigadier General playthrough. So I talked about it a little bit in the BG playthrough. I more or less play the exact same strat as I do here, but because it's Brigadier General, everything went better than it does here. With the exception of the fact that on my right flank I got caught with my pants down, and didn't have a recon net. So a little bit I kind of overcorrect for that particular problem. Anyway, so the plan here is essentially to, just like I said earlier, I'm going to stand on the apex of this hill and just kind of catch them in the river. And the defensive line that I'm going to hold is basically this river, that AP hill and that unit of skirmishers is currently crossing. So I see an opportunity to kind of smash hill and catch these skirmishers as well out in the open, and I'm kind of developing a hatred for skirmishers. So I'm very excited about killing hill. That's a big deal for the opening phase of the battle. It's going to give me a lot of breathing room in the early portion of the fight to get kind of everything situated, so they're not going to have as quite a quick turnaround time. So I spent a little bit of time here just kind of smashing the crap out of these skirmishers, which is excellent, and getting the rest of the line into position in a place where it's far enough back from the river that I can shoot things just coming out of the river, but I'm not getting shot at from the other side of the river. I'm not perfect about kind of maintaining that defensive mentality throughout the whole course of the whole battle, but we do the best we can with what we've got. So up top I've got 2 line infantry units. I can't read the number, unfortunately, in post. Looks like 3rd and 4th maybe. And then the two light infantry units, and the sharps are the northernmost unit, and then the brown unit is the one southmost of that group. And that seems like a pretty good kind of breakdown of the force. I see that supply wagon, and I get kind of tunnel vision-y about it, but for the most part, I work to keep discipline about up here. But as you can see, I get drawn into a firefight with guys on the other end of the river, where I'm still in good terrain because I'm elevated, but it's still, I don't know, they're not in water. I should always try and shoot them in the water, basically. Skirmishers trying to cross the river. The opening kind of phases of this battle go more or less the same if you deploy like this. It did on Brigadier General. I've watched other playthroughs of this battle. The opening phase kind of goes the same. Where stuff starts to go a little sideways is what the Confederates bring in their left hook, which we won't see for a bit. I'm keeping the artillery disengaged for most of this opening fight. The skirmishers, their muskets and skirmishers can handle a lot of this stuff when we just have a numbers advantage. Not an advantage, but we have near parity, which doesn't last for long because it was supposed to be outnumbered 2-1. But it lasts for a bit. Yeah, so let's talk about takeaways. Let's step out of the battle really quick because this is all just me catching guys in the river and slamming them while they're there, basically. Takeaways of the Gaines Mill campaign. So we had some discussion leading into Shiloh that, a lot of the tricks that I had come to lean on in Brigadier General aren't going to work in Major General. The enemy is just more tenacious. They won't take 2 volleys and run. They'll fight it out. Some of the things that I could pull or some of the battles I could come out of with very low casualties. Like, for example, in Brigadier General, despite getting caught with my pants down, I still walked away from this fight with like 1,400 casualties, just something stupid like that, and near complete eradication of the Confederate Army. And I don't achieve that here. I have decent casualty numbers. They're not bad, but they're not, anywhere near that low, that precipitous of a turnaround. Quite the coup, picking up the supply wagon also. So the first, I would assume this is a corps. I'm seeing more than a division, so it's either a big division or it's a corps. The first wave of the Confederate attack has basically been defanged. They've got no general to rally their broken units, and they've got no supplies for when their units run out of ammo. So in both regards, the first corps has just been rendered combat ineffective, and now it's just milking them for kills. So I talk about that as my big takeaway from the Shiloh, the pre-Shiloh campaign, is essentially this ain't your daddy's this ain't your daddy's ultimate general. I had to kind of retrain myself how to fight the enemy on Major General. So the takeaway for me from the Gaines Mill Malvern Hill campaign, I despite the fact that Gaines Mill and Malvern Hill are 2 grand battles, there's not really a short battle in between them. So there's a small battle, skirmish, whatever, side quest in between them. So I have to treat essentially all the Gaines Mill Malvern Hill campaign is essentially a one lead up to the one big 2-stage grand battle, basically. Takeaways are I also can't rely on just pure musketry to carry me through a lot of these battles like you could in BG. Here I'm kind of leaning on heavy artillery presence leading up to Gaines Mill, Malvern Hill. But I'm kind of coming to the conclusion that I would like to lean on some shock elements. I think where I'm seeing that the most evident is in Seven Pines. So if you're watching this and you're sticking this out and you're already, 13 and change minutes into the video, hopefully you watched Second Pine as well, or Seven Pines as well. So Seven Pines, I got real fancy with the cav, and I tried to hunt down Confederate artillery in the backfield. Well, I trusted that the small unit of Napoleons and then the Allied 10-pound Parrots would be able, and along with the muskets, would be able to see off the Confederates. And what I learned is that, yes, that would work in terms of forcing them to disengage, but you would never achieve a decisive outcome. So I watched that battle now, and I'm frustrated that it took me that long to figure it out. I was successful in taking out the artillery with the cavalry, which should have been, for me, kind of a lesson. It took me most of that battle to figure it out. Once the cav units came back and supported the main army, almost immediately, there was a huge shift in the initiative to the Union. Whereas before that, the Confederates had repeatedly been free, essentially, to throw whatever portion of their army was rested against the Union army, get thrown back, and then, that'd be that. All right, so more Confederate forces are coming. This is their second corps or division. I don't know. They take a minute to show up. So the 2 cav units that I took to Seven Pines basically broke the Confederate offensive once they were used in an infantry support capacity. It's interesting how much like the infantry will be the brunt of the killing and also the brunt of the dying, and yet the infantry needs the other arms to actually achieve any kind of decisive impact on the battlefield. It's kind of strange how that all works out. So we're watching the Confederates kind of stream southward because there's nowhere safe for them to stand. The artillery's blasting them. My skirmishers are trying to... There's a gap, and I'm trying to sort of pierce into that gap so that my skirmishers can rejoin the army. I take fire on the way through, and then, that sucks, but whatever. It's not much I can do about it. I needed to get them back with the army because their line of retreat had been cut off, and now my skirmishers or guys back there have made contact with the second corps or division attacking. I'm assuming it's a corps, and so I'm going to be leaning on 6th and also the light units to hold my southern flank, while the rest of the army redeploys to deal with this new force. And I'm also aware that the map has opened up, and so now I'm kind of like paranoid about my rear, remembering my experience in the Brigadier General version of this battle, which I never uploaded. Anyway, they pushed in my back door, and I had to kind of recover from that. 6th Infantry does a bang-up job in this battle. They hold the left, or the extreme left southern point of my line. They hold it with light infantry support and an occasional visit from the supply wagon, and they end up shattering, again, with the light infantry to support. They end up shattering all 5 of these units down there. Like, all of them shatter, which is definitely kind of a secondary kind of outcome of them slamming into the entirety of 1st Corps that had been deployed. Okay, so we have our the remainder of 1st Corps shown up, the rest of 3rd Division and all of 4th Division. So this is my cavalry division and also 2 new units of artillery, and then a random infantry unit that just didn't come along up until now. So the artillery and the infantry are deployed on my right with the intent that when the skirmishers ultimately detect the Confederate left hook, hopefully that line infantry unit and then the 2 skirmishers and the artillery can kind of buy time for either 2nd Corps to show up or for me to pull resources from I Corps' front and defend. So, but the front's still going great. The front's stable. The influx of new troops is, concerning. There's a lot of them, and they still have this great copse of trees to fight through. So the challenge for me is trying to hit them when they're in the river, but then have skirmishers that can see them. And the Cav division does excellent. So I think for a long time, let's talk about what I'm doing on the battlefield, and then I'll talk about Cav really quick. It's the same plan. I'm baiting them in the river, and I'm trying to fight them in the river. I'm trying to balance like hitting them as much as I can while also keeping my guys safe. So there's some force protection concerns here. I've been taking heavier losses than I'd like to in these campaigns. I'm getting 3-1 kills. I'm getting 4-1 kills in some of these battles, but I need to be getting better than that if I'm going to be getting the Army's general level of experience higher. And I've been fighting some messy battles trying to grind it out with the infantry when I need to be using the infantry as the anvil upon which the rest of the Army's hammer. destroys the enemy. So in this case, it's going to be the cav division or the snipers or the artillery. The infantry holds the ground, but I need to not be relying on them to do the killing, because if my muskets can shoot the Confederates, guess what? The Confederate muskets can shoot my infantry as well, and I'm never going to get 2-star units that way. And I don't need 2-star units. It's just kind of a nice to have, kind of a thing. So the cav division does excellent for me in this battle, and so I'm seeing, so my skirmishers have detected elements of DH Hill, maybe, I don't, whoever the left hook is, detected lead elements of them. I also kind of got a hint because my recon bar suddenly jumped a bunch of red all of a sudden out of nowhere, so I was kind of aware that maybe I should go check that skirmisher who's sort of scouting. And now I'm kind of planning how to handle it, I guess. So I'm still trying to throw these guys back from the front. They're big units, though. They're all 2,000 man brigades. 2 stars is pretty much the average here. It's wild. My 1,000 man and 1-star brigades, throwing them off. I actually kind of like, I don't know, I like 1,100. I like 1,000 still feels too fragile. 1,000 has carried me through the campaign up until now, but it's still so itty bitty. But 1,200, 1,300, that little buffer between basically having 4 digits in the number for some reason is just mentally makes me feel comfortable. Anyway, I got distracted again. I'm sorry. So we're still kind of throwing these guys out. They're probing for a left flank, and my light infantry is just not giving them one. It's excellent terrain for light infantry to do their job too. Where the Confederate right flank is right at the moment is, I can't tell if this is supposed to be swamp or marsh or wetlands or whatever, but it's whatever it is, it's not at all conducive to infantry operations. They suffer a speed debuff. They don't get any good cover there. Like, it's just terrible. So, 1st, 3rd light infantry can just have a field day, while 6th continues to just murder. They just wreck these guys. Like, 6th infantry just kills it in this battle. They do fantastic. I tried this kind of abortive flanking attack on the Confederate position. I push up 3rd and 4th infantry to try and get some, flank shocks to, I guess, push the Confederates out of this safe territory. I want to get them out of that copse of trees, and I want them to attack in just less advantageous terrain, essentially. Light infantry doing their work, 6th infantry kicking butt. 3rd or 4th, I think it's 3rd, screams at that artillery unit. I have just a major hard-on for killing Confederate artillery. I want to capture as many guns as possible. That's part of this. I'd like not to buy any cannon. So I'm getting my artillery into position. So we're taking a look at the right here. I'm getting the artillery into position. I've got that 1 unit of line infantry just by themselves. So clearly they're overextended. And so I'm pulling some units to kind of support as well. So the skirmishers right now are going to do it, and then the cav is going to do some great work attacking their general and attacking their artillery. So because we're about to have the cavalry do awesome stuff, I should finally get around to talking about the cavalry. I want to throw a shout out here to Aetius Flavius. His videos on the Confederate campaign have been just excellent, and he's getting some really great work out of cav. I've been getting some great work out of cav as well, using them as kind of dismounted, basically mounted infantry, using them as I call them 1st and 2nd dragoon. I've been using them as dragoons. I've been using them as mobile infantry, and they've been doing fantastic work in that role. Aetius seems to use his units all melee cav, and I try to play them aggressively in this battle. I've got a brand new unit, 3rd cav, who I use as traditional cavalry. So I debated calling them cuirassiers or lancers or something, and it was a little silly. I'm following my Napoleonic naming convention. Not that I have any grenadier units, but it just, I don't know, cavalry seemed fine. So dragoons or mounted infantry, whatever, but cav just can be cav. They're not hussars, they're not lancers, they're not cuirassiers for sure. So just cavalry seems fine. In a combination of, I'm using the 2 dragoon units as a combination of shooting and also melee. That's they're kind of just general catch-all units, and then I've got a support. Right now, I've got 1 unit of support melee cav, and eventually I'll have a second and possibly a third. My intent is for First Corps to have a full cavalry division of 2 units of dragoons and 3 units of shot cavalry. Just because the performance in this battle has been so exemplary of all of the lessons I'm learning in Major General. So I dismissed cavalry at the Brigadier General or lower. Even when I'd played Colonel, I was like, why bother with it? Cavalry, it's just too much effort. And it's just like the same thing I said in BG. Why bother with skirmishers? It's too much work. It's too much micromanagement. And now that we're in Major General, I'm seeing why. At BG and Colonel, you can just lean on infantry and get the kills that way, and it's fine. And at Major General, you need something to be the hammer. Because the infantry will be an anvil. It will be a great anvil, but you need something to achieve decisive impact. To sort of quote Clausewitz, you need to destroy the enemy's army, and cavalry or skirmishers will be that anvil or hammer. Your Schwerpunkt. And I'm even experimenting with a dedicated skirmisher unit with, if I can get them, the Springfield 59 carbine. Actually, is it a Springfield? It's the cavalry carbine, the 59, whatever manufacturer, Remington, Colt, I don't know who makes it, but I think it's a Springfield. The 59 carbine, I'm debating putting together a dedicated skirmish unit with that, because of how good dismounted cav has been in the role. And my intention is basically to have that light infantry unit support the snipers. So the snipers are going to snipe stuff, obviously. But the thing is, with the Brown and the Sharp, the reload is pretty slow. And so there's some situations where I would like a light infantry unit to be doing light infantry type things, but I need them like in the woods on something's butt, reloading quickly. And the 59 has a great reload speed, and I mean, shit. Like at this point, like I'm tripping over 55s, so they're also, I think, Springfields. I'm gonna look it up later. Anyway. The cav carbine. Traditionally for me, they've been cav carbines. That's why I think of them that way. I've never used skirmisher infantry with a carbine because I've just always been like, they suck, they're terrible, there's so much effort. But cav has paid so many dividends because I put the time and the effort to learn how to use them. And snipers, yes, they're more micromanagement, but they again pay dividends. And so, these options exist in the game, and the game developer intended for them to be here. So maybe I should give them a thought, because I can see where a dedicated 375 man, 400 man, short range, high reload carbine unit would be incredibly useful to hunt cannon, especially because they'd be able to morale shock them quickly. So very briefly about what's going on in the battle. Third Cav is off hunting the supply wagon. Their general's done. So the left hook has basically been defanged already, but it's just hitting my army. 2 brigades of their infantry have already routed. But then weirdly, they've routed like into my army. And this is a thing that you see sometimes. I don't know why they would route this way, but they do. 2 Corps has just arrived. So that's fine, really. I just basically give 5th and 6th Division run orders to just kind of form line and in a blocking position against the 2 brigades that routed into my army. Some infantry, I think this might be 1st and 2nd, but I don't actually know. Some infantry has deployed in between the wired unit to block my center. And so basically I've pulled all the units that were north in my position. I moved them now to counter the left hook. The left hook, there's not much of it left, but I'm tish. So the left hook's going well, basically being countered. I've pulled a lot of resources to deal with that. I send in third cav because this unit's just routing to shit and back. I also charge in first and second. Despite them not being dedicated melee units, they have a melee stat, and 3 cav units just wailing on a routed Confed. Infantry brigades seem like a pretty good, like they might not need to be dedicated melee to be okay in that role. Also, third cav just needs experience. They need kills. They need experience. They're a brand new unit. Green rookie, brand new rebel or Union infantry, just Union anything is just terrible stats. So very briefly, yeah, I get caught with my pants down still. There's a 4th infantry brigade on the Confederate left hook that just got a volley off into 5th counter battery, which makes me fucking super pissy that I just didn't see it. And so I redeploy 10th infantry to go meet them. And then eventually I'll send, I think probably 5th division. Some units from 2 Corps. I don't know who it is. I think it's 5th division. I'll send them to go meet that unit as well. And then they'll form a blocking position along basically that line of trees where the Confederates are right now. They'll form a blocking position. And the Confederates aren't going to really be a threat on the left anyway, but I need to move them there. Anyway, so I use 2 Dragoons and 1 Shaw Cavalry as a combination shooting and melee unit, and they do excellent. They do really great in this role. So, based on my experience in the Gainesmill, Malvern Hill campaign lead up, this is sort of bringing my comments sort of full circle. I need a decisive arm of the army. Infantry can do great work. Infantry will not kill the Confederate army by themselves. They'll do the lion's share of the work. They'll do the lion's share of the dying. But they are not enough by themselves. So another division from 2 Corps is handling the 2 Confederate units that are kind of on the flag, McGraw-Hill, and they'll push them off and they'll push them out into the swamp to the south. It's such a very long distance for those units to move, but it's just crazy. Yeah. Skirmishers get out of the way. Line infantry moves up. So I push 6 across the river to go hunting for cannon. I think maybe I can take out their artillery or something. Second is really just getting hammered. I needed to pull him back, and I just didn't. I'm mad at myself for it, but I needed to pull him back, and I didn't. It's becoming apparent to me, like, in this moment in time while I'm playing, it's becoming apparent to me that the Confederate left hook has completely fallen apart, but the thing is it's fallen apart in such a way that it's shattered, like, in 3 or 4 different directions. So I don't have a cohesive front line right now. And I need to generate little battle groups that can protect my flags and kind of present some sort of vague exterior to the Confederate army, but I don't really know if I have a good idea. So you look at 1st Lightfoot right now. They're hammering this cannon unit, and they really should be back with the army shooting an infantry across the river. However, that's exactly the kind of thing that I would envision a high reload carbine unit of skirmishers being perfect for. That's exactly the kind of mission that I would imagine they'd handle. So yeah, a lot of what I'm doing right now is I'm pulling I'm condensing and reconcentrating my army around the flags, because I know there's, I think, 2 Confederate brigades to the north and right of the screen that could come south and threaten Boatswain Hill. There's 2 Confederate brigades that could threaten Boatswain Woods. I mean, it's just, the left hook has fragmented, but there are still elements of the hook that are significant threats. Yeah, there's one coming at me. So now I'm generating these kind of independent battle groups to handle, portions of the fight. And I realize that, so this is where some things happen that I'm not happy with. Stonewall Jackson's shown up, a 3rd Corps of Confederate troops on the left of the screen is attacking, and I've pulled too much of my army to deal with this left hook. I've overcompensated basically for it, and I pay for it. 4th Howitzer gets a volley, and then they spoiler alert, they get wiped. 4th Howitzer, which is my 24-pound howitzer unit, with 2,000 kills in this battle, they get 1 volley, 2 volleys, and they're gone. The cavalry is amazing. They do great work. They wipe this unit that they're charging, but it's combined arms. The cav are charging, but at the same time, it's being hit by skirmishers, musketry from infantry and artillery to cause them to rout at the instant that the cavalry charges. I mean, that's the kind of thing. Combined arms is what Major General demands. So it's becoming apparent to me that Jackson's going to be able to cross the river. He's going to force a crossing because I pulled too many forces away. What is there cannot hold them back without taking unpalatable levels of casualties. So I cede them to this level of the river. I mean, it's cost them 2 corps to take it. They can have it at that point. So I'm feverishly pulling my guys back because I realize the kind of losses I've taken in 4th Howitzer, and I'm like, oh crap, I can't afford that in this army. I can't afford to lose units with that kind of experience. I can't afford to lose 24-pound howitzers just generally. A lot of things I can't afford to be doing that happen. The battle overall goes very well. I have no complaints about the overall battle. I'm incredibly salty about losing 4th Howitzer. No other unit suffers significant casualties. I think 2nd Infantry takes 400 and change, and I think 6th Infantry takes just shy of 300. But that's about the heaviest, and then it's just 100, 200 here and there, which when I've got these units that between 1,000 and 1,100 men, that's bearable across the entire army. I'm still just incredibly salty about losing 4th Howitzer. It's just rough. My light infantry units take more fire than I would like them to take as well, so it's me being too aggressive with them. They have long-range weapons, and they have expensive weapons, and they have a lot of experience. I can't afford to be putting them in those situations. But they're hitting me from a couple of different directions, and I'm very nervous, justifiably, I think, about kind of how that's going to go. But it mostly goes okay. So they're trying to cross this river, and I just do the same. I wait until they're in the river, and I hit them with 1 or 2 formed infantry units and just blast the shit out of them. I see an opportunity to wipe up another Confederate unit, so I move the cavalry to take it. So between now and Malvern Hill, I'm not going to be building new units, probably, except for a new unit to replace 4th Howitzer. But eventually I'll be building 2 more melee cavalry units to join 1st Dragoon, 2nd Dragoon, and 3rd Cavalry in forming a cavalry division because they just do so much good work. And I like the combo that I do in this battle where I've got two carbine cav dragoon units that fire, and then they manage to rout these units before charging. Okay, Fiasco back. Oh boy, man, I was really feeling pretty good about this right up until the very end. Let me see. I mean, that's objectively good. 3,200 versus 21,000 is good as far as the casualties are concerned. Cav losses, okay. The one that really, really, really hurts is the artillery. Oh boy, yeah. The unit of 24s, the fourth howitzer, getting shot down and shattering. I didn't pull them back fast enough, and then when I did try to pull them back, I guess it still wasn't fast enough. So I think it was Longstreet was the fourth wave of reinforcements on the left here, and he pushed it over the edge. What I had pulled too much away from this defense to go deal with the left hook, and it's rough. It's bad. I mean, they got just so many kills. If I could have preserved even one gun from the unit, it would have been expensive to replace. But it would have been ultimately fine in the long run, and they shattered. So I'm pretty sure they're gone. Pretty sure. And there's still 55 of them left. So theoretically, maybe I get lucky or something. But that's just not great. And everything was going fantastic. Wounded Colonel Trigg, dead Colonel Nagel. Other than that, though, everything was actually going great on that part of it. Let me see. Promotion for you. No one skipped a rank, it looks like. Yeah, so everyone just kind of moved up. I've seen it happen where, like, majors go all the way to full colonel, and they just skip lieutenant colonel all the way through if they get enough experience. So that's sometimes kind of fun. Let me see. Captures. Holy hell. A bunch of Harper's Ferries. That's phenomenal. Couple of Enfields. Okay, whatever. Some supplies. A bunch of Napoleons, which is fun. Recovered weapons. Okay. Cav carbine weapons, supplies. All right. I recovered some howitzers, but I lost the unit, so probably meh. The Browns, how did they do? So we lost 69 and we recovered 19. Not fantastic. Where is third Lightfoot? Lost 2, recovered 1. Yeah, okay, sure. So the light infantry did phenomenally. I'm really, really ecstatic with their performance here. So, yeah, that's Gaines Mill. I think I'm real salty about fourth howitzer. But other than that, I couldn't be happier with the battle. So I'm just getting shitty. I'm getting really shitty about that one unit. But I mean, we killed 52 guns. I think we didn't capture many of them. We captured just the 12-pounders. That's it. And some howitzers. Okay, so Confederate artillery isn't really fully up to snuff yet, looks like. And career points, money. Great, awesome. Yep, so we did not get fourth howitzer back, which is a huge loss to the Army. That's terrible. Interestingly, also, no one in First Corps picked up a second star except for Second Dragoon, which is really surprising, actually. I was convinced a lot of these units might pick up a second star, but I guess not. Even third Lightfoot. How did first Lightfoot do? So they're not even close to getting their third star yet either. Huh. All right, cool. How did and then very light fighting, very light losses, frankly, in Second Corps, which is also really not terribly surprising. I think the counter battery unit. Where are you? Oh, you might be part of first unit. Yeah, the counter battery unit took some fire, so they lost, I think, one gun and a couple of dudes. I will get these things cleaned up, and then I will see you guys back in Malvern Hill. Thanks for sticking this out. This is Fiasco. Gaines Mill. See you guys next time. Signing out.